Good afternoon. My name is Danny Plogger, and I'm the Executive Director of the Virginia Transit Association. I want to welcome everybody to the fourth 2024 VTA and DRPT Joint Lunch and Learn webinar program. VTA is so thankful for this partnership and the opportunity to offer our members in the Commonwealth transit community a deeper dive into the public transportation challenges, issues, and processes with insight from the experts at DRPT and our transit partners. This webinar series would not be possible without the support, partnership, and expertise of our friends at DRPT. As a reminder, our formal programs are on our VTA's YouTube page if you'd like to go back and review them. And as always, if you have any questions during the presentation, please put them in the Q&A box and I will ask them at the appropriate time. Today's program is Procuring Your Transit Vehicles, a topic that is of great interest to many of our members, especially as we move further away from the pandemic-induced supply chain challenges of the last several years. And so now this afternoon, I have the pleasure of introducing our partners in this webinar series and today's presenters, Avery and Jess from DRPT. Jess has a master's in nonprofit management and originally worked in the nonprofit sector here in Richmond and the arts and the environment. She worked as a grant writing consultant specializing in government grants, as well as project manager for a federal grant for a startup tech company. She has been with DRPT for over a year, overseeing the 5310 Human Services Grant Program, including the vehicle procurement for that program. Avery received both an undergraduate degree and a Master's of Public Administration from James Madison University. He was hired as a town manager in the Shenandoah Valley at age 23, and during that time, Avery developed an understanding of the importance that public transportation plays, especially in our smaller, underserved communities. In 2013, Avery was hired by the City of Harrisonburg's Department of Public Transportation as Outreach and Communications Coordinator, and was soon promoted to manage the transit system's operations as their transit superintendent in 2014. Avery joined DRPT in 2020 as statewide transit program manager and helped develop and expand the Commonwealth's intercity bus program, known as the Virginia Breeze. He is also responsible for developing and overseeing the state's rolling stock, vehicle contracts, and serves on AASHTO's Transit Management Steering Committee. So please grab your lunch, sit back, and enjoy a great program from our friends, Avery and Jess. Avery, kicking it over to you.
Great, thanks so much, Andy, and good afternoon, and welcome to our Lunch and Learn discussion today on rolling stock vehicle procurement. Such a important and significant topic as we all go through together the world of procurement. It's certainly a complex environment and one that we are all in it together. So a big thank you to Danny and to VTA for inviting us here today to go through on a high level some of the work that DRPT does to provide the option for our partners to purchase vans and buses. So next slide, Danny. So before we begin, I just wanted to pause a minute, and then I'll go into some housekeeping notes. But I really wanted to take a minute and state truly how honored I am to be in this industry. So many hardworking folks, such as yourselves, our frontline colleagues driving these vehicles, our skilled maintenance teams, ensuring that the safety of so many lives every day with the work that they do, our sanitation workers who keep our buses clean, our IT folks who are constantly having to learn and adapt to new technology to provide the best possible experience for our passengers, our critical thinkers, our planners who are always looking for ways to improve efficiency and optimize routing. I really thank you. It is inspiring, the work that you do and the work that we all do and play together to make this possible. It is critical, and we must show up every day, always striving to do our best. And I really mean it when I say I'm driven by the pursuit of helping others. And I know everyone that's in this industry on this call today is also feeling the same way. But I just challenge us all to never really forget the real significance of all the facets that come together to provide meaningful service and the individual stories of the lives we impact every day. It, again, is an honor to serve alongside of you. I speak for all of us at DRPT when saying that we are here for you. We want to do everything in our power to help your system succeed. So with that, I'm going to start on a few housekeeping notes. we really value your time and want to make this afternoon's discussion significant for you. We will keep each audience member muted during the presentation and will allow for time for questions at the end of each section and at the end of the presentation. Also, just as Danny mentioned, the presentation today is being recorded and will be accessible to share information with other colleagues, perhaps that weren't able to join the call today. Next slide, please. Okay, during our time together, just a quick overview, we're going to accomplish the following. Obviously, welcome and introductions. If it is possible, and I'm not sure, Danny, if you have a preference here, but if you can put your name in the chat, also the agency and the role that you play in that. That's certainly appreciated. It helps us state our many state rolling stock vehicle contracts available to purchase of, as well as go into some detail of the ordering cycle and why that's important. Next, we'll move into what it means when we're actually purchasing the vehicles and what that entails. Then we will discuss some pro tips to consider when applying for these vehicles during our application season, which a reminder is opening on December 1st. Believe it or not, that is closer around the corner and will close on February 1st. We will then leave you with some key takeaways and allow time for Q&As. Does that sound good to everybody? Let's dive in. All right. So obviously, transit systems throughout the Commonwealth are made up of different shapes and sizes. Each are really unique, having their own identity, work culture, brand, but our mission is the exact same. We want to be able to provide safe and reliable transportation to those that we serve. Having said that, some of our transit systems have a very robust procurement team who are viewed really on a national stage as being true experts, while and some of those may be on the call today, while others may serve in very different roles every day, focusing on various different things that are required of you, some of which may also have to drive buses on occasion. Regardless, DRPT recognizes the need to provide purchasing options for our partners. So that's why we develop these rolling stock contracts. We do this in an effort to take some of the lift off of you and to shoulder the burden of the complexities involved with procuring rolling stock vehicles. The Virginia Department of General Services, DGS, and their Division of Purchasing Supply, also called DPS, are truly wonderful partners with us, DRPT, in helping to administer these contracts for the state. We work very closely with them with writing these vehicle specifications, organizing the renewals, the solicitations, modification, price increases, you name it. I also want to point out that all of our rolling stock vehicle contracts with Virginia are open for others throughout the country to purchase off of, not tooting our own horn. And this is the whole purpose of helping our industry as a whole, even outside of the actual work that we perform each day. Virginia's rolling stock contracts are actually one of the most popular throughout the country and are used truly by states all over. And we're honored to play a role in that. While DGS is not familiar with FTA oversight requirements specifically for these procurements, DRPT is. We ensure that all federal clauses, certifications, rules, regulations are followed, so that you can use these contracts if buying with federal funds. Although we do want to be good partners in this industry nationwide, the reason we go through all of this hassle and the work of procuring these vehicles on contract is for you, our Virginia partners. So we do encourage you to utilize these contracts whenever possible. Certainly, it's not going to cover every vehicle. There's specific needs for your fleets we're well aware of, and but we also want to hear from you. If there's things that are not on our contract that you are really hoping could be, please talk to us. This is how these vehicles come to be on a contract, is what we hear from our partners on what they're needing for their needs. Next slide, please. Okay, so just talking about an overview of this vehicle ordering timeline. We realize some of our audience members may be new to procurement in general, or new to ordering vehicles, or perhaps just wanting to gain a little bit more information. Some of you in the audience I know have been doing this for a long time, and really have a great grasp of this and are an excellent resource for others to lean on with this as well, but just general ordering vehicles. So one of the first things, obviously, that you are already thinking about if you're on this webinar today is identifying the need for vehicles, the timing, the type, the quantity, the options. Obviously there's so much we could go into with this. Each vehicle has a lifespan depending on the vehicle type, and it's important to really do your homework before even coming to the table and trying to go through the process of ordering a vehicle. You have to really be prepared. It has to be obviously documented, in terms of what your plans are for replacement vehicles, for expansion vehicles. But the need, really needs to be established and documented. That goes without saying. So once that's established, you obviously apply for funds. Some of you do take advantage of state funds, and we are happy to really have a lot of resources available to help you purchase vehicles. So you apply for us, obviously through our grant cycle, which is open again December 1st, closes on February 1st. So once you've applied for funds and the funds are awarded, then we obviously issue contracts. After approval from the CTB of these approved projects. And then essentially once that happens and our contracts are written, again, I'm going generally through this, that's when it's time to order these vehicles through EVA. I'm going to spend a little bit more time in just a slide or two on the importance of going through EVA if you're using our state contracts. And also just a note, a shout out to our 5311 partners. We really need to know way ahead of time before you order a vehicle. There's a reason for that I'm going to mention in a minute, which you all, I'm sure, are very aware of, but some of you may not be, called the TVM reports, the Transit Vehicle Manufacturer reports. Those, we have a very small window as you as a subrecipient, if you're 5311, we, DRPT, on your behalf, submit those TVM reports, and they're on a very tight window for us to get those in. So more to come on that in a minute. But after that, obviously, when the order goes through, everything is basically a waiting game, and that can vary, obviously, depending on the type of vehicle and when it's purchased and other conditions that, if you've been around this industry for the last several years, you know that is very, at times, unpredictable. I think we're finally reaching a point of stability, but I won't spend much time on that. But thankfully, I think it is becoming predictable again in terms of deliveries. And then obviously follows an inspection. And then we'll also mention in a minute some of the post-delivery oversight requirements. All right, next slide, please. Okay, so if you are ordering off our contracts, I did mention this, you have to go through EVA. There is no exception to this. The reason for this, I'll tell you a primary reason. Because of our partnership with DGS and the immense amount of work that they put into this, they do receive a small administrative fee when vehicles are purchased off of EVA, and they track that. So that's something that the vendors will pay DGS. So that is a real significant reason why, and we obviously, with being great partners with DGS, want to make sure that that's happening too. So we do review vehicle orders and make sure that our partners are going through the proper channels in EVA instead of just going directly to the vendor. Although, again, I want to make this very clear. Some of you on the call today do your own procurements, and we certainly we welcome that. If there's something specific that we cannot offer off of our contracts and maybe a different vehicle type, there are specialty vehicles that we just don't have on contract because they're not that commonly ordered, and we certainly want and encourage you to go through your own procurement channels. But if you are not wanting to do that, we do really encourage you to use our vehicles on state contract, but they must go through EVA. So after you've applied and you've been awarded funds for new vehicles, you're ready to order. So a few things to keep in mind and to plan for when ordering your vehicles to make sure you have a firm understanding of the production time. Some of these smaller vehicles, such as minivans, BOCs, raised roof vans, depending on a lot of factors I kind of hinted at, you may be lucky that the production is not too far out. And in some cases, perhaps the vehicles are ready on the lot to be delivered within a matter of a few weeks. I know for minivans, currently that's the case. It really just depends on when you buy and what's going on at the time you buy. Other delivery times, again, seem to have stabilized, especially with BOCs somewhere. From my understanding, it still can vary, but I'm hearing about 8 months. And actually, in some cases, it's a little bit longer, obviously, depending on what you're buying as options. So it really does vary. Larger buses have been rather predictable in the last several years, although the production time has been increasing. But generally speaking, the understanding is on a good order, 14 months, but generally 16 months for delivery on those. But regardless, as I mentioned, important to plan what you're ordering and the timing that you need to have that new bus go into service. For vehicles you are replacing, remember, keep good track, as I know you do and we're required to with asset inventory for the VIN numbers that the vehicles you are wanting to have replaced. Obviously, in order for us to make sure that these are tracked and marked, we want to know which vehicles have been replaced, and we'll make sure to have you identify what VINs of the vehicles you're having replaced if it's a replacement vehicle. And again, I can't emphasize this enough. Please do not wait on ordering these vehicles. We strongly encourage, as humanly possible, once they have their contracts written for funding awards. There's no real advantage in the long run or short run to wait on purchasing. Prices only have been increasing, and delivery times usually only increase if they don't stay the same. So planning ahead will really save you in this step and making sure that you can do this as early as possible. We really encourage that. Next slide, please. Okay, and this is a quick snapshot of, and again, a high summary, but the vehicles that we have on our state contracts currently. Obviously, you can see we have a modified minivan, raised roof van, also Ford Transit, body on chassis, low floor body on chassis, and then multiple contracts on the 12-year heavy-duty bus, transit bus, which include Gillig and New Flyer. And as part of the New Flyer contract, we have MCI motor coaches as part of that. Tons of different propulsion options, really varying depending on the contract you're looking for. But I wanted to highlight on this slide the renewal dates as well as the max end dates. Again, this is all sort of high level stuff. I'm sure you all are very aware of this. We operate these contracts on essentially a 5-year schedule. It is 2-year required and 3 optional 1-year renewals. So this is just kind of showcasing some of the key dates to look at. And there's a strategy that goes with this. So obviously we know as we're entering or approaching a renewal date. For instance, take a look at the modified minivan that is coming up in November, the end of November of this year. There will likely be a renewal. And it's important to note that because at that time, it is pretty certain, not always the case, but 99 out of 100 times that price will be going up because we're entering into a new model year. So timing is key with all of this. Sometimes, a lot of times, it may be out of our control. When we receive price increases, it may be between renewal times and maybe the times that we have something else come online with the contract. But these modifications are becoming a little bit more frequent as the market, I hope, is becoming a little bit more predictable. I'm not going to say completely understandable, but it is certainly something we've been watching and are trying our best to navigate. And again, something that we need your help to try to get the best price with what you're ordering. So I'm gonna now go to the next slide, Danny, please. And on this, to the right of your screen is just a screenshot. It's a little small. I need probably some bigger glasses to read that, but those are all of the state contracts for rolling stock that we have available today, and the links to EVA, where you can get some more information, especially on the propulsion types. Again, CNG, some battery electric options depending on the type, and the sizes, the floor options, everything you need is available on EVA. And so take a look at that. And underneath of that, very small, is templates. We're providing you some written language that you may use for some of the post-delivery requirements of these vehicles. So before I get into some of that, real quickly, the TVM reporting I mentioned earlier is the Transit Vehicle Manufacturing Reporting. This is an important report that we must do in compliance with DBE, Disadvantaged Business Enterprises. It's a report that is uniquely submitted to the FTA, but it is, I would say, in a lot of cases, quite unusual how quick of a turnaround is required of this. So our 5311 partners, if you receive and are purchasing vehicles using 5311 funding, you really need to let us know way before, if you can. Give us a heads up, pick up the phone or email, text. I encourage any method you'd like to let DRPT, your program manager, know that you are about to order your vehicle. That gives us a heads up that we need to be looking for this to come through, because we are only given 30 days notice of the date that the PO, on the PO itself, the purchase order, to submit this TVM report on your behalf. And of course, all the other systems that manage this on your own, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this is something that can really sneak up on us. And you may have a little bit of a delay. 30 days is not a lot of time. Somebody may be on vacation, something may happen, but it is crucial so that you don't have any sort of findings on your next review, whether it's a DRPT compliance review, whether it's a triennial review. Certainly, we're looked at with our state management review from the FTA that we're making sure that that's done. So, again, I want to I'll go into this in a minute, some of the post-delivery requirements, including the Federal Motor Vehicle Safety Standards certification, Buy America percentages that we are required after purchasing this vehicle to make sure that the content that is involved in these vehicles meets the minimum standard of 70%. And obviously the purchaser's requirement certification, which is basically saying that the vehicle that you ordered is the vehicle you're getting. So we can go into that in a minute, but I'll turn it to the next slide, please. Okay. So it's a requirement. First off, you do not only have just post-delivery oversight requirements if buying off of our contracts. You are still very much responsible and in need of doing your own price, analysis, and I would encourage, and obviously following your own local procedures for buying. Independent cost estimates are crucial. Knowing what you are expecting before going into this is important. It's important not only just for the documentation requirement, but the whole purpose of that is really making sure that that you're getting a fair and reasonable deal. The procurements, we are responsible for making sure that it's competitive and responsible and reasonable. But it is really your responsibility before you buy, even off of our contracts, really to making sure that you're looking at this pricing and you're anticipating what it is that you are expecting to get ready to purchase. Obviously, that's important for your budgeting. It is a volatile market in terms of what we've seen in the last several years with the price escalations, but it's just a crucial step. So I can't emphasize that enough. But when it comes to actually purchasing off of our requirement and then, our contracts, and then the oversight requirements, you are definitely not off the hook. You need to do a few things in order to make sure that you're in compliance and abiding by FTA's rules with this. That includes, again, the FNDSS certification. And this is something that the manufacturer provides you. The Buy America, again, domestic content percentage, and also the purchaser's requirement certification. So again, you're certifying that what you have intended to buy, you're actually receiving, and that's coupled with the vehicle inspection. So all of those, are at least the templates and an inspection sheet are found on our website, on our DRPT page for rolling stock. And I do want to just mention, as we've seen production ramp up with vehicles, we've received some feedback. Some of it is varying, depends on, really, I think it just depends on a few factors with several different vehicle types. But let us know if you have any quality issues on your vehicles. This is something that, it is our contract. I think we have a great relationship with our vendor partners. And we have gotten a lot of issues actually just addressed between the purchaser, in this case, your transit system, and the manufacturer or dealer directly. So we don't really usually take a direct role in resolving any issues of quality issues that may come up if you've discovered that upon purchasing. However, there may be some rare cases where we do. And if we have continuing issues of quality, our approach on the state is to provide quality vehicles and to ensure that that's happening. So if we are receiving so many issues and notices from our partners of issues that are not getting resolved, that may be something for our agency to consider looking into next steps. But generally speaking, we've had great success working these issues out with the vendors and dealers. But do let us know. We like to hear that feedback. We want to know firsthand the quality issues that you're having, and also ideas for improving maybe options and things that we can discuss with vendors as we're procuring these for you on state contract. Next slide, please.
Do you want to pause?
Okay, and with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to my colleague Jess Maffey to talk about application considerations and some key takeaways. So take it over, Jess.
Did we want to pause here for any questions?
Yes, questions. I did say that. Yes, let's pause for questions. Thank you, Jess.
No worries.
All right. Avery, the question that I have is from Sonia at HRT. Does the person evaluating the proposals or bids for DRPT DGS not complete a price analysis?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. So that is something that as required, once we receive the bids back, we do a price analysis with our agency. And we also, anytime there's any sort of renewals, we also do any contract changes at all, modifications. This could be in price increase requests, maybe awarding the contract, and obviously for renewals, we do price analysis. Yes. And we're happy to share those as well. That's something that I will say, in case this is another question that comes up. We are still working on the best platform for making sure that those are available to everyone that uses our contracts. But definitely, if you are needing those immediately, before we have secured those in a location and gotten that information out to you as to where, please reach out and let us know.
Thank you, Avery. That was the only question that we have.
All right, I'll go ahead and continue on with the presentation. We'll have more time for questions at the end as well. So next we're going to get into application considerations. So talking in a little more detail about what we ask you to consider when applying for vehicles with DRPT. I'm going to go through applying for fully loaded vehicles, adding contingency to vehicle pricing, VIN substitutions for replacement vehicles, and fleet transitions. Next slide, please. So when applying for a vehicle, we ask that you do include the full cost of it in your application and make sure you fully load it with whatever equipment you need. What we don't want to see happen is that if you're only coming in for a base vehicle and then realizing later on that you're going to have to come up with more funding based on the options that you'd like to include. So when you're applying, make sure you're including all the equipment, security, fare box, AVL, any other types of equipment that you want on that vehicle. And it also helps us kind of streamline administrative work when that's all included in one application as opposed to separating it out over multiple. And when we develop these contracts, we know that our transit partners have a variety of different options that work best for their system. And we really do try to have our contracts be inclusive and provide for those options. So again, just let us know if there's something you're not seeing, but we try to make sure that's all, a lot of options are there for you for the vehicles. Next slide, please. Another thing that's important to consider is adding contingency to your pricing. So DRPT really encourages you to add price contingency in your application. We generally encourage adding around a 15% contingency based on the current conditions. By adding this contingency, we can ensure that regardless of those price increases, you'll be able to order the number of vehicles that you came in for. And kind of going off of that, as we tie this into the ordering cycle, this is again why it's important to place that vehicle order as soon as possible after CTV approves the funding, so we can try to avoid those price increases and not sort of test the limits of that contingency you included. So it's just trying to make sure that we get you exactly what you wanted and there aren't any surprises in terms of the price increases. And kind of, we touched on this before, but again, just another important aspect of the ordering cycle is that we really want to see activity happening on the grant. So if the vehicle hasn't been ordered by the project end date, we will not extend that project. We really want to see something happening there and that you're taking action on it. There certainly may be a case in where someone is not able to order a vehicle. An example that's come up is if the vehicle is not yet on the state contract. So we certainly understand that you may have to wait if you're kind of just, that vehicle is going to come up and you need to wait to get it based on what's on the contract. But in general, we need to see activity on that contract and that you're not just waiting for the sake of waiting. Next slide, please. So this may be a kind of a recap for many of you, but we did just want to explain how VIN changes work for replacement vehicles. So in the Merit Capital Program, replacement vehicle requests are scored based on the age and mileage of the existing vehicle VIN. And the VINs of the replacement vehicles are tied to each grant. So when you're awarded, those replacement VINs that you put in your application come with you onto your grant. And moving forward with the web grant system, those VINs will be listed on your grant record in addition to your contract. So we'll have them all there, web grants, very easy to go back to and see. And so if a listed VIN was approved for a replacement at any point during any funding year, it can be replaced. We do allow for VIN substitutions. And so if you want to substitute a new VIN for one that you already had on your grant, we will actually retroactively score that VIN as though it was part of the original application. So it's just letting you know there is a little bit of a process to, if you're wanting to substitute a VIN. And the type, if you do a VIN substitution, the type of the vehicle can change, but it's not guaranteed. So if federal money is included on the grant, FTA does have to approve that change. And that means even if you have federal discretionary money that you're using toward that vehicle, you can't just changed to a different type of vehicle, it will still have to go through the FTA approval process if it is a different type of vehicle. So just some things to keep in mind if you need to make VIN substitutions on your grant. Next slide, please. So under the, we're going to talk about a little bit about fleet transitions. And I apologize, I'm mostly just going to read the slide, but these are kind of the main points we wanted to make for you guys. Under the Merit Capital Program, all propulsion technologies are eligible for funding, and basic chargers can be included in that application. If it is your first time, if it's your agency's first time requesting alternative propulsion technology, we will be looking for a plan for your fueling and charging infrastructure as part of that application. And you can also apply for a separate capital grant for that fueling and infrastructure. So kind of seeing that, you know, you're thinking about holistically the vehicles, but also how you're going to transition into your fueling and charging infrastructure or whatever kind of fueling infrastructure is needed. DRPT, initially, we would fund a small number of vehicles for testing those alternative propulsion technologies, making sure it's working for your system. You're kind of prepared to do that transition. And as part of that, we do want to see a transition plan. So kind of as you're thinking about it going forward, DRPT is going to be looking for a transition plan, and we generally won't fund a large number of alternative propulsion vehicles at once, because again, we kind of want to see how it's progressing and not just throwing a bunch of vehicles at once without kind of seeing that plan going forward. We definitely encourage you to apply for federal discretionary money. Particularly given that the vehicles are costly, we really encourage grantees to look at the low, no emissions funding. And kind of once you get into higher numbers of alternative propulsion vehicles, we will require that federal discretionary money as part of the request. So again, just kind of, I know it's a big topic and everyone is thinking about that in terms of the transition and how that will work. So we're just really encouraging kind of a slow and steady approach as you're thinking about your applications. And here, I think we're going to pause and take any questions before we get to our next slide. Does anyone have, I don't see any in the chat, but does anyone have any questions?
No, no additional questions, Jess.
Okay, you can go ahead to the next slide then. Okay, so to kind of wrap up, we wanted to just put some key takeaways from this presentation from Avery and I. Again, placing order through DRPT state contract and EVA, that would be our preference and why we set up the state contract for you. Ordering as soon as you're awarded in order to get the best price, not waiting for those renewals to kick in and see those price increases or any other unexpected price increases that may come up. Letting you know that DRPT can provide assistance and resources for ordering through EVA. We didn't touch on this as directly, but we're definitely available to help with your ordering process through EVA. That's definitely something we're here for. Keeping us in the loop on quality issues if you're ordering off the state contract. And finally, just making sure that overall you're planning for what you want and thinking about contingency pricing options, fleet transitions, and those VIN substitutions as you're going through your application and also thinking about the next several years of vehicles that you're looking at. All right, go to the next slide. Okay, we just wanted to open it up for any questions or Q&A session with for Avery or I.
Put any questions that you may have in the chat box or in the Q&A box. All right, no questions.
All righty, well, I guess that is the conclusion of our presentation. Here's Avery and my contact information. Avery, did you want to close out with anything?
Nothing specific, just a big thank you again to VTA um, for hosting this and for inviting us. Obviously, we want anyone with questions that you may think of afterwards. Perhaps if you're like me, you're pretty hungry, so you may have started lunch yourself. But we really do appreciate your time. It is a privilege to be with you, and please let us know how we can help.
And we did get a question from Matt Scalia. Requirements for a feasibility study for low emission buses or zero emission buses.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the question. Let me see if I can go back in the chat here. Oh, just requirements. What are the requirements for a feasibility study? Okay, gotcha. So that is definitely something that I'm going to definitely lean on more of our planning team on. They're very involved with those studies for technical assistance. I'm going to probably direct that specific question, Matt, to you to better answer that. Not exactly my direct realm, but there are some key points that we'll be happy to map out for you and get you that information.
Excellent. Thank you again, Avery and Jess. We appreciate you joining us today and discussing procurements. And thank you again to everybody who joined us today. This webinar will go onto our YouTube page for further review and for sharing